to ignorance and confusion. Three men arose from humble beginnings with a message of wisdom and hope for their troubled times. Three men who would eventually change the very face of humanity. But they would just like to stay in for once, maybe order a pizza, see what's on TV. So, here are some other guys.
It's Song Talk Radio with Michael, Neil, Phil, and the gang.
Welcome to Song Talk Radio. This is episode number 266. This is the show with songwriters talking to other songwriters about the craft of songwriting. We share tips, tools, and techniques, and together we all become better at writing songs. I'm your host, Neil Modi, and joining me are the sporting members of the Song Talk Radio Action Team. We have Football Phil.
Thanks very much. Very excited to be here. Right. And I have, unfortunately, a spoiler for the new Avengers, was it Endgame movie?
Yeah.
I'm just going to ruin it for everyone. It's all made up. It's all fictional. Never happened. It's all just a big story. So
really,
very
They
disappointing.
have a little disclaimer at the end credits to show this is all fictional.
No, they're
you
trying
mean
to
they
hide
use
it.
computer-generated imagery and stuff
They
like
did.
that?
It's all a joke.
What's the point?
I know.
And we got Major League Michael.
Ha! Hello, I was wondering what sort of appellation I would have.
Yes.
Hello, everyone.
And on the social media tonight, we have Racing Rita.
Hi, everyone.
Hello, Rita. And finally, on the tech board, we got Martial Arts Micah.
Hey.
Hey.
And that's a thumbs up.
He doesn't have a
Great
mic, so
reading.
he can't reply. So
That's
he's doing it by semaphore.
During the show, please send in your comments and questions to at Song Talk Radio on Twitter or Facebook, or feedback at songtalk.ca, and we'll share your thoughts with the audience in as real time as we most possibly can. And please stop by our website, songtalk.ca, find out how you can be a guest on the show. Tonight, Toronto-based duo Audio Insurgency have been working together since 2014, releasing genre-bending music with elements of cinema, EDM, orchestra, and rock. Alon composes and writes, while audio engineer Ivan makes sure the songs hit hard and sound great. If it's pumping, loud, or epic, Audio Insurgency are on it. Welcome back to the show, Alon and Ivan.
Hey,
How's
how's it going?
Hello.
This is your second time on Song Talk Radio?
As Audio Insurgency,
As
third
Audio
time.
Insurgency, Third time.
Yeah, but you've been on here a bunch of times.
I was here on the first
Alon
episode.
That's
was
right.
with us on the very, very first episode, way back when.
That's right. And then
So you've got your frequent flyer card. You're gonna get a free show.
I got air
soon.
miles. You guys take
if
that?
he comes on again, he gets a free sub. Actually.
Oh, nice.
Perfect.
Submarine, like a
Yeah, submarine
open
sandwich.
screen door.
No, submarine sandwich.
Oh, submarine sandwich. Oh, okay.
Should take them up on that. next
Okay,
time.
yeah.
They won't be expecting it. They'll forget about it.
At 10 episodes, you get a tank.
Nice.
And then,
Yes.
aircraft carrier. And, yeah,
Pepsi did that once. It didn't work out that nicely.
okay. So we're going to start today's show with a couple of thoughts about
News bits.
news bits.
We got a couple of news bits.
What's been on your mind? Well, I tell you, I went down a rabbit hole. I was watching the internet.
It's on computers now,
Vox.com has this, I guess, series on music called Earworm. And so I've been checking that out. One today really caught my attention on fade-outs in music. They charted it from the very beginning to mostly, popular music. And 1985 was the heyday of fade-outs in music, where the most number of songs in the top 40 had fade-outs at the end. And now we have a couple, but I think 2017, there were no hit songs that had fade-outs.
Really? Wow. Well, I guess because streaming fade-outs doesn't make any sense.
I
not?
guess.
Yeah.
But they're kind of making the point that sometimes, in order not to fade out, songs come to kind of awkward conclusions, and
Yeah.
some would sound better if they actually did fade out. And then Ivan and I were talking a bit earlier about how you can't just fade down the volume, because you would then keep, like, different frequencies have to be faded out at different rates in order for it to fade out together, right?
I mean, I don't think it would matter that much during fade out, because at that point you're already relaxed.
Right, but you're still hearing the song. Oh, that was the other thing. So they did this test where they played the same kind of song. They had an audience listen to it, one with a fade out and one without. and people would kind of keep in their mind. It would linger longer in their mind with a fade out.
With a fade out.
Yeah, so it
Interesting.
kind of
Huh.
it's like it stays with you, I guess is the thing. So
That's an interesting.
so there's the little tip for songwriters out there. If you want to be memorable,
Y'all want
fight
memorable?
for a fade out.
Do y'all want memorable or streams? Pick one.
But it's it's interesting. We were talking about how technology changes songwriting because back in the 70s and the 80s, your song really needed about 8 or 10 bars of intro so that the DJ could talk over it. But of course, if you have that much intro now, it's really dull because people tend to listen to stuff right off the top, like on streaming. So most people, like most songs, start really, really fast now. But where that doesn't happen is in dance music, where actually you need like lots of intro so that the DJ can sort of cross-fade.
Exactly.
And do
DJ
other-
friendly.
Yeah, DJ
And you're on
friendly.
the dance floor, or you're waiting. Do I like this? Does this make me want to move? So you need some warm-up time to it. Whereas, if you're streaming something, you're flipping through or sampling, if it's not making its impact in 5 seconds, next.
Yeah,
Thanks.
it's
Very true,
Thank you,
very true.
next.
The DJ being DJ friendly is about letting DJs like fade the two songs into each other
Yeah.
because if you don't have that intro that immediately jumps into the loud part, then DJ has to improvise and like do his own thing.
Does that
But-
also mean that you need a fade out at the end of a song?
Not necessarily.
DJ can just
Well,
fade out
DJ
yourself.
does the fade out.
Just
but
a repeating chorus or some
well,
sort of motif.
you need some kind of an ending as well.
Yeah.
That's fade.
Well, yeah, it's
cross-fadeable.
usually like it depends on the genre, but sometimes even like the endings are long. They're like let's say a minute and a half, 2 minutes of just repeating tutsu cuts, right? And then they slowly remove the elements. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that's
cool.
Yeah, it's
So
fascinating.
that was my new thing of the day.
Right.
very fascinating.
Neil, what
Yeah.
about you?
Yeah, I'm actually. I'm going to mention something that I've mentioned on the show. I think a while back, and something that maybe bears repeating. That podcasts are a great way to learn stuff, and sometimes they're not always
Podcasts like this one?
podcasts like this one, for
Oh,
instance, a great way to learn stuff. But sometimes they come from unexpected places. Like I was always a big fan of Malcolm Gladwell, the author.
Yeah.
And he has that podcast, Revisionist History, and just randomly one day I dialed up the next episode that was called The King of Tears, and it's actually his analysis of country music.
Oh,
and,
wow.
And this episode kind of blew my mind because I've never looked at country music in the way that he looks at it, and he compares it against rock, and then he actually talks about the similarities between country music and hip hop, which is
Yeah.
kind
Oh,
of
really?
which is
Very much
it's just kind of in interesting, surprising ways. At least to me, coming from largely a rock and pop background, and it allowed me to sort of appreciate
that
what
sounds
country music has to
fascinating.
offer.
And what podcast is this?
The podcast is Revisionist History.
Malcolm Gladwell.
Malcolm Gladwell's Revisionist History. I think this was either in season 1 or season 2.
All right.
And what was the title of it again?
The title was called The King of Tears.
Wow.
All right. Cool.
Yeah.
So how do you watch? Where do you listen to podcasts? How does that fit into your day? Do you like make time, or are you driving, or
Usually when I'm either driving or commuting, for the most part, or at the gym.
And of course, you spend all
I
your
know
time
you
at the
should
gym.
see
Well, yeah.
Neil. He is just pumped.
That's
Yeah,
true.
spend a lot of time at the
Well,
gym.
get a couple of podcasts in a week that way.
Yeah.
Not a bad thing.
Yeah, if they're about 5-minute podcasts, yeah. To go.
To fit into the
Yeah,
hour-long
I-
workout. Yeah.
For me, it's I was into podcasts like even before iTunes supported podcast. You had to
Yeah.
drag the audio files onto my Palm Pilot.
Yes,
That's
I remember
how
doing
long,
that.
Or because it was I just fell in love with them. So I've always got about 3 months of podcasts to listen to at any one time. Because podcasts are free, so I subscribe to everything. So I listen to them pretty well constantly. If I'm walking the subway, on the subway, doing dishes, doing stuff around the house.
So you go back and forth between them, like different types.
Yeah, yeah.
And what sort of mix do you have? What's an ideal mix?
I do
Music,
stuff about
spoken word,
business,
and
probably about 30% music, 30% business, and 30% tech.
Oh.
You need a theme song. Podcast man. Podcast man.
Podcast man.
I find that I'm doing audio production all the time, so I can't actually listen to podcasts.
Yeah,
The other time is spent reading books.
yeah. Well, it's
Yeah,
good to
well,
Yeah,
hear
I
about
tend to
that.
read more. I
That's
feel so
podcast old
old-fashioned.
school.
Old school podcast, yeah.
I don't even listen to a lot of music anymore. I spend like 8 hours working on a song, and then I'm like, I don't want to listen to anything anymore.
Yeah.
I want to like listen to video game music at most, like
Yeah.
maybe something.
That's not uncommon. I had a friend. He was a bike courier, And while he was doing it, he was supporting his, building his studio, getting equipment, all that stuff. So he'd be like bike courier all day and then work on music all night. And he loved it. And then he got to the point where he got so busy, he was able to be a full-time recording engineer, musician in his studio. And then he stopped working on music. He was just working on other people's music because after 8 hours of being in the studio, the last thing you want to do is work on your own music.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting thought about what you want to spend your time on because you only have so much time and so much juice, really.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah, I can see that. When I worked in the music business, it kind of killed my love of music. It's like watching sausages being made.
Yeah, after a while you get a bit...
Yeah.
It took a while to get back. Actually, it was an analogy about chocolate. I figured it out because there's so much dreadful music out there. And I thought, oh, God, I just do not like music. And then around Christmas and Easter, there's a lot more chocolate for sale, right? And there's also dreadful stuff, chocolate-flavored products.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then I realized that's the same with music. It's sold in the same place. There's music, and there's music-flavored product. And then I realized, okay, so it's not all bad. So I just have to look for music and avoid the music-flavored product.
Right.
Because you guys, you write your own stuff, but then you also record other people's songs as well, don't you?
We write stuff for other people. We write our own stuff.
We make music for video games.
Yeah.
And films. Maybe. Sometimes.
Do you have a preference? Like if you could, okay, this is where we're going to be spending our time, what would you choose?
Probably video game, but that's because we're trying to build up our portfolio. Right now we have like 5 or 6 games that are being made or already done. And by the end of this year, we wanted to make it like 10, 12, so we can start like,
Is it the most creatively fulfilling?
I think so.
Yeah, because you work on so many different situations. Like one game, you have a racing game where there are cars that shoot guns, and another game you have this fantasy world where there's like little cute unicorns.
Yeah, you can do like historical. Which other video game would allow you to do historical French stuff and then immediately go into retro futuristic sci-fi because it's a time traveling plot.
Yeah, the guy comes in and they're like, we need a theme for a secret agent killing Hitler.
It's like, okay, do it.
You sit there and go, what, another one?
I'm so sick of that. I'm in a rut. So you play video games, I guess. What video games do you have the best music or notable music? What would you pick as an example of really good music in a video game?
The video game I'm thinking of, it has good music, but it doesn't have a lot of music during the game. I play a lot of Dota. It's like a competitive game, so it's mostly focused on sound design, but the sound design there is perfect. Like, you know what's going on by hearing the sounds. Like, the sounds are so satisfying to do. Like, every little action you do, you're like, yeah. But even the main menu music, they hired a whole orchestra, and it just sounds epic. I really like it.
What game is this?
Dota, Defense of the Ancients 2.
I've heard of that.
Defense of the Ancients 2.
That's only because I've told Neil about it so many times.
Yeah.
I think I've heard of it otherwise.
And you?
Me, personally, I think that last year Mario Odyssey came out, and that had the best music ever composed. Like, just... from a composition perspective, it's like really, really nice jazz and kind of epic fantasy music, like a Voyage type of music. And then from a sound design perspective, it blends so seamlessly. Like, you go from Mexican mariachi and it plays one version of the theme, then you hop onto a wire, all of a sudden you're zipping you're like a little particle of electricity, and now it's playing the same theme but the electricity version of that theme.
Oh, cool.
And it's
that's brilliant, actually.
really brilliant.
And if I can add one more, the Doom from 2016.
Yeah, oh my god.
It's just heavy, like, metal.
Yeah.
It's how
industrial
they call it?
metal.
Yeah, it's industrial metal, and it's perfect for, like, you have to slay demons in that game, and it's just da-da-da-dum, da-da-da-da-da-dum, and you don't even hear the music, you feel it, because you're, like, angry, you're slaying those demons, you're like, yeah.
Wow. Super heavy.
So it's what you're saying, it's a very anti-demon. It's an anti-demon.
Oh, yeah.
It's a game in which the demons are afraid of you.
Oh.
You're not
the
afraid of
demon
them,
slayer.
they're afraid. Yeah, you're literally the demon slayer.
But you guys have music in games now, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So how do you get your music in the games? Like, how do you get the stuff in front of these game
Lots
builders?
of emailing.
Hustle.
Lots of emailing.
So-
So
okay.
when you're given one, do the video game creators give you guys free reign to say, hey, here's the game, come up with
It really
whatever you
depends
want?
on the guys. Some guys want a very specific thing and they give us references. Other guys, they're like, well, I'm paying you money, you're professionals, do whatever, just send me the copy before it's final so I can tell if like you really messed up, and it's good.
Yep.
So now when you say hustle, what does that mean?
It means do not ever stop relentlessly pursuing.
Okay, let's get into specifics. Let's not do this general
People,
stuff. So are you like finding these people through the through a website? How do you get these?
Steam Early Access mostly, which is Steam is a
You're giving away our trade secret.
Uh-oh.
Oh no.
It's okay. I'll delete that.
Rewind.
But yeah, you find them through databases. You find their contact info. If you can't find their contact info, you find other ways of getting in touch with them. You message them a specific email about their needs. You give them a specific song that would fit their game, and then you go from there.
Right. So you do some research. So you like that
Yeah.
Steam. What's it called? Steam
Early access.
Early Access. So that's like a service where you get to see sort of games in
development,
Yeah,
yeah.
Oh,
exactly.
cool.
It's because I was sitting there and there's so many cool games in there that don't get finished. So every time I see an early access tag on a cool game, I'm like, oh, gosh darn it, it's early access. Then one day I'm sitting and I'm like, we need to find clients. And I'm sitting and I'm looking at this game and I'm like, oh, it's another early access game. It's probably unfinished. It doesn't have anything like, oh my God. Alan, fire the email cannon.
So the two songs you guys have brought in for the show tonight, they're more sort of rock pop type.
Yes.
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
So,
This is more us.
Okay, so this is more us.
Yes.
More you guys. Like how did these songs come
Genre
about?
bending. Well, usually they come out in my head,
Right.
and then I produce them. Then I shoot them off to Ivan, and he co-produces them with me until they're polished.
Yeah, my job is to shout everything is bad until it's not bad.
Yeah, pretty much.
Right.
Does Ivan, do you comment on structure or arrangement or anything, or is it just sonic issues that you deal with?
I do a lot of layering. I sometimes change the synthesizers, I change the samples. Sometimes I say, hey, I don't like this melody. Sometimes I
Okay,
say...
So it's
this-
arrangement.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's arrangement.
It's a little bit of everything. It's just, the little things that Alan, like, he is very skilled, but it's really hard when you're writing, like, a 70 track massive like song. You're gonna miss something. You can't pay attention to all
Yeah,
of
and you
that.
get lost in what you're creating.
Exactly,
It's good to have a second set of ears on it.
for
And I come in and I'm like, Alan, no, this synthesizer, no. Don't even think about it.
Bad, Alan. Bad.
and these now, Alon, you're a perfectly capable songwriter and singer, but for these two songs, you opted to select someone else to
Yeah,
sing.
the
lead on them.
song fits the singer. Like, honestly, why am I going to force myself onto a song if I think that it needs something else?
It's kind of like a microphone too. Like
yeah.
every singer should like find a microphone that works for them, and it's the same for the song.
So
Like,
is that sort of an intuitive thing? You write the song and be like, I think this person would fit it,
Yes.
or do you look for something specific?
I hear it in my head, and sometimes I just hear it in another person, and I'm like, I need that person. I need that person to sing my song.
You ever hear somebody on stage, for instance, and then say, hey, I want to write a song for them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've done that
For
before.
that voice.
Yeah, for sure.
Right on.
Shall we listen to a track?
We shall listen to
So
a
let's
track.
talk about the first song. It is called.
It's called Save Me Now.
All right, let's talk about this. How did this song come apart?
So I
into development.
I joined a service called SongTrader, which is to find licenses for films and TV and stuff. And they were looking for a show, music for a show that was going to be based on a Neil Gaiman novel. And I was like, I know exactly which novel that's going to be. It's going to be American Gods. That's my favorite novel of all time. I need to write the music for it. So I wrote this song using elements of the plot, which are basically like about a man who goes on Odin's journey. Like he dies pinned to a tree, and he resurrects, and he gains the knowledge from the tree of knowledge, and then he becomes a god, right? And so that's kind of inspired, like, in the lyrics. And the melody, same thing. I just wrote it to fit the lyrics, and the chords flowed out of that, and that there's your song.
Cool. All right.
All right, let's take a listen.
Fate rises in the east where the sun once shone. My soul's at sea, I sail for the unknown. Traveling on and on, no stars in sight. And from what I've seen, it's an endless night. Some things can't be explained, some things just can't be explained. Day breaks, but there's no light overhead. Am I awake or am I dead? Bleeding heart, bleeding soul, I can never leave. Ghost lingers over me, becomes what I believe. Life goes on from dusk till dawn. Save me now, save me now. Don't wanna go alone. Life goes on from dusk till dawn. Some things can't be explained. Father, or am I the son? Am I the martyr, or am I the gun? Fate is the king who rules over us all. Even the gods will one day fall. Even the gods will one day fall. Life goes on from dusk till dawn. Save me now, save me now. Don't wanna go alone. Life goes on from dusk till dawn. Some things can't be explained. Life goes on from dusk till dawn. I see my downfall, I don't wanna go alone. Life goes on from dusk till dawn. Some things can't be explained. Some things can't be explained.
Okay, so that was Save Me Now by Audio Insurgency, and a couple of familiar voices on that song. We had Bruce Harrod singing the lead vocal. Of course, Bruce was host of the show for...
He used to sit where I'm sitting.
He used to sit, right, Michael? Is that seat warm, Michael?
Yes.
His ghost is still here.
Yeah,
and
but you had
and-
different shoes.
And you also had backup singer Sherry Jacoby on there as well. And she's been a guest on our show.
Because I remember you gave me an early version of this song, and I remember saying that's Sherry, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because she has a very identifiable voice.
Oh yeah,
So
totally.
I've heard that if you're gonna pitch a song for placement in a TV show or a movie or something, there are specific things you need to consider when writing that song. What are those things?
It needs to have a build. It needs to ramp up and then have like a part which goes into the next part that's really heavy and hard hitting, because that'll be like the hard moment in a TV show. Another thing that you need is a long instrumental section so that they can have dialogue over it or whatever. And then another thing that you need is like some kind of choir or like repeating motif in it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. What about lyrics?
I don't know.
No
The
explicit lyrics, I
yeah,
guess?
no swearing, maybe, but even then you can have swearing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I wondered when I'd read the lyrics before, I'd heard what this was for. Okay, what was the inspiration for it? And then you say it's from, you're supposing it was for American Gods,
Yeah.
and that was the inspiration. So what is most specifically from your from American Gods, and what is sort of
Like the first line of the song. And then also the part about being the martyr or the son, and even the gods will one day fall. Like the entire thing about American Gods is that the old gods lack sacrificial blood and faith from humans, so they're becoming weak and old and dried up. And the new gods, media, the TV, like the radio and all that, they're becoming much more powerful, and there's just kind of like a war going on between the old gods and the new gods.
I see.
So yeah.
Oh, cool. When you do something like this, where you have a concept, say, and then you're working with collaborators, you're bringing in a vocalist or whatever.
Yeah.
How much direction and how much kind of control do you have over what they do, or do you just say, okay, give me what you got?
Specifically with Bruce, I couldn't control him very much. He
Tell me
just
about it.
sang it the way that he sang it, right?
Yeah.
Which was good because he sang it well.
Yeah, Bruce definitely had perfect voice for this song. It's like an old-timey song. He has that old-timey voice. It's,
Right.
it's perfect.
And then the other thing is like I've had singers who come in and they have just no idea, so I have to tell them like this is what you do at this specific moment, and this is specifically how you sing it. So.
And do you mean melodies, or do you mean like soft and then loud?
Yeah,
and
expressiveness.
Sort of the dynamics
melody
of it,
they
and
probably know how to sing.
I find that's the best when it's a combination of two, when the singer knows what he's doing, but he also listens to the feedback, because singers don't hear the same thing you're hearing, especially from technical part. Like if when you're mixing, for example, you don't want certain things in
Like-
singers.
Like pops.
Like pops, or sometimes they make those mouth noises,
Lip
and you're gonna
smacks and things.
Yeah.
yeah, and like you can cut them out, but sometimes it's just too much, and you need them to tell them, hey, drink some water.
or even
Yes.
the breath before the next verse.
The breaths can be actually
Breaths
quite
can be
nice.
natural,
Sometimes leaving the breaths in the song makes the song.
Yeah.
Sometimes,
Yeah, if you take them out, it tends to sound a bit kind of dead.
Really?
You know, yeah. I mean,
Or
you-
it actually causes me to feel suffocated. Like I'm listening, I'm gonna. When is this guy gonna breathe?
Yeah.
What? I
And,
can't.
and certain
I can't.
things, like if you're doing like an EDM thing or something like that, then that maybe
Maybe
it's appropriate, right?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, yeah, it
But,
depends
yeah.
on how emotional you want to get. I mean, one thing, if you want to pull out the emotion of a vocal, just hit the ends of the words, and man, it makes it so sexy.
Yeah. Speaking of sexy, we'll be back right after these
We need
special
to take a
messages.
break.
We need to take a break.
For those just joining us, you're listening to Song Talk Radio, streamed on songtalk.ca. And tonight we're talking about the various ways. No, this is an old script. We're not talking about various ways to get funding. We're talking about
My
scoring
apologies.
for music videos. We're talking about audio insurgency, about all the different types of ways to make great songs, make them sound good, and where to pitch them.
Yes.
Old scripts. But don't forget, we love to hear from you. So tweet your thoughts to us at Song Talk
Sorry,
Radio
Fred, good
or
help.
via feedback@songtalk.ca. We share your thoughts here on the show. Phil, do you have any thoughts you'd like to share from our audience?
Yes, we just got a tweet in from Sharon Rose. Says, "Gee, seems like hustle is always the answer. Whenever the question is how do you, and that is really true. It's
I would say no matter what.
Yeah.
Relentlessly.
Yeah,
yeah,
but hustle in the right direction.
yes,
And I mean, nowadays you're just sitting on your behinds, so it's not like you're running around. You're just
Sometimes.
it's
Or,
true.
or you could stage bomb someone. Like you could go wait until they're doing a conference, like someone you really need to meet. Wait until they're doing a conference. Wait until they get off stage from their presentation,
Which is the important
and
part.
meet them and go. Can you spare 2 minutes? 2 minutes, 2 minutes, and then I just walk by them and show them your script or whatever you wanted.
Elevator pitch.
Yeah.
Be there. But That's in person. Oh, something
Yes,
else, Phil?
and we got an email. We love getting emails, so please send us emails because we're very lonely. So this one is from Perry W. I don't think he said where he is. Hey, was wondering why you mentioned you were looking for an amateur songwriters for your show. Does that mean someone who is just starting out? I've written a lot of songs and make some royalties from them, but definitely don't consider myself an amateur. Cheers. Perry. Yeah, no, we want people of all levels actually on the show. People just starting out or professionals and everything in between.
As long as you can talk articulately about how
your
you
songs,
do what you do.
Yeah.
Well, I think
That's the main
one of
thing.
us needs to be speaking.
That's why we bring guests in.
Yeah,
So they
well,
can put
actually,
complete
on
sentences together.
our blog, the very first article I wrote on our blog is what does it mean to be an amateur songwriter?
Yeah.
And the point I was trying to make is that the whole origin of the word amateur comes from the notion that to love something, right? So as long as you love what you're doing, you're an amateur. As soon as you start making money at it, then you're professional. But that doesn't say anything about the quality of your work.
Yep.
You can be an amateur and be producing absolutely amazing quality songs
Yeah.
Right.
that are well crafted
It's the
and all the rest of
motivation.
it. It's the motivation and the drive and the passion behind it.
That makes sense.
I
Yeah.
never knew that.
And the nice thing about having someone who's just starting out is because usually when you just start out at any kind of creative venture, you're not very good. And it takes a while to develop.
Yes.
And I want people to understand that because so often everything is so polished now. Everyone's home demos are so polished. It's not like the old days where it would just be like some guy with a cassette tape. So people have the
four-track.
sense that that's where you start off, but you don't start off that way. You start off being really rough.
Well,
Yeah.
even in the writing process, like we've had guests on the show that have taken us, back from previous versions of a song, and it's like,
Yeah.
well, this is how it works when you start out. It's not that great.
Yeah,
And-
it's always
and-
interesting to hear that, the roughs and what they led to.
Exactly.
But there is also the other side to that is that the better you become, everything starts sounding worse. Like I listen to modern hits, and there's always that something bothers to me sound-wise.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
there is an effect I don't like, or maybe they overdone something. And like you're listening to your stuff, you're listening to everyone's stuff. Everything has problems.
Well, they say
Nothing is
there's
perfect.
there's an actual term for it, but when you just start something, you get a little bit of knowledge, your confidence goes way through the roof.
Yeah.
You think you're amazing.
The Dunning-Kruger
and then,
effect.
yes, and then the more you know, the less you think, the more you realize you don't know.
No, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And sometimes I feel I know less about songwriting now than I did, like before we started even the meetup. But I know
Man,
that's not true.
Talk
because-
about violent mood swings. It's like, I love it. I hate it. I love myself. I hate myself.
Oh, yeah. This is the best song ever. Don't listen to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, that's interesting. And you can listen to everything we talk about in the shows and find them, all the links to the podcast, the books, the web services, everything we talk about on the show. You can find what we mention at the resources page at songtalk.ca. And just like to let you know what's coming up on Song Talk Radio on May 7th. Adriel Smiley, who will give you information on how you can get your songs on the playlists at campus and community radio stations, and which would be very helpful, I would think.
Yes.
May 14th, Pina Hughes-John, a UK-based singer-songwriter who is visiting Toronto, and she's going to drop by.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
Tell her about her. Tell
She's
us
apparently
about her
really into
stuff.
steampunk.
She's got a steampunk thing going.
Yeah, that's right. So she'll be the only
Early
actually
access.
registered Zeppelin pilot I think we've had on. So.
We'll be taking the roof
We've
off
never
of that
asked
show.
the other guests, but maybe we should.
That's true.
If they're Zeppelin pilots. I
Isn't that on? That should be on the list.
think it's on the application form, isn't it?
I'm not telling.
So, and also, if you're in the Toronto area, please join us at our next Songwriters Meetup on Sunday, May 26th from 1 to 4 p.m. at the Transact Club at Brunswick and Bloor in Toronto. It's free to join and free to attend. Stop by songtalk.ca for the link to the Songwriters Meetup. People show up, you play your song, you get feedback from everyone else there. It's a
Good
very
Sounds nice.
It's a great
entertaining
time.
and
Yeah, it's a
informative
hoot.
way.
That's where we've
to,
all met
go
each
about
other.
songwriting.
Yeah,
That's right.
Every
It's
single
true.
one.
I remember when Elon first started.
It is a great
April
meetup.
2013.
I know. Long ago. You were so young. You were so full of hope.
So wide-eyed.
Now you're dead-eyed.
You're cynical.
You're jaded.
I love myself. I hate myself.
Exactly. All right.
So yeah, so don't miss the Song Talk meetup either.
Yes. Okay, so let's talk about your second song here, Imitation Love.
Yes.
So how did this one come about?
I was just fooling around in Ableton, which is the DAW that I use to make my stuff.
digital audio workstation for the kids at home.
And
Nice
I came
footnote
up
there, Neil. Thank you.
I came up with a really nice kind of arpeggiator sequence that had like a swing to it. So instead of going boop boop dip boop boop dip boop, it went boop boop dip boop 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 dip boop 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 dip boop. Right. So that was the basis of the whole thing. And then I just threw some cool like delayed crashes and then put a vocal melody on it, and then I recorded the pop that you'll hear during the drops into my iPhone, and that was like the focal point of the entire song for me, for everyone who ever listened to it. And then after a while, it came to pass that Ivan told me it was underproduced. So actually, this story runs even deeper. I went onto Making Pop Music Forum and asked people to give suggestions on how to fill up the song with noises, and then eventually it finally came to the point where it was produced enough that Ivan could start mixing it.
Yeah, and I personally really like chiptune, like 8-bit sounds, the all constant, like bleep bloops, and the song is Imitation Love, and it's about the lyrics alluding to like a video game, and I'm like, Alan, we gotta have those things. So I just sat down and I just wrote a bunch of stuff, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah, see how many video game references you can catch in the lyrics.
All right, let's hear it.
I see who you are, but I don't know where you've been. I know what you do, but not who you're doing it with. I hear what you say, but I don't know what to think. I want to start again, but you only call me when you want some multiplayer action. I know what you're craving, it's building, and soon you'll game over, baby. I ain't playing no more. Don't need your imitation love. Yeah, game over, baby. I ain't playing no more. Don't need your imitation love. I know what you like, but I don't know what you do. You've been driving me crazy, 'cause you only call me when you want some multiplayer action. I know what you're craving, it's building, and soon well, game over, baby. I ain't playing no more. I don't need your imitation love. Yeah, game over, baby. I ain't playing no more. Don't need your imitation I hear what you say, and I know what to think. You want to start again? Well, how about no? Yeah, game over, baby. I ain't playing no more. I don't need your imitation love.
Cool.
Yeah. Woo.
Imitation Love by Audio Insurgency. And the vocalist on that song was?
Ryan Wilkie.
Ryan Wilkie.
That's
Very
great.
talented young man.
That had some really neat bits. I mean, definitely the woohoos had a nice little hook. Woohoo that really picked up.
Yeah.
Lots of really interesting dynamic changes too. At the beginning, I thought with your verse 1, there's a sort of modern sort of approach to the snare that it's not just on the 2 and 4.
It's a samba beat. Do
which
right?
is which is happening a lot, which I was sort of surprised. But then you come into the 2 and 4 of the chorus, and then come back to it. But then actually you do a nice sort of breakdown on verse 3, which I thought was quite nice. That allows the final chorus to kind of build and push out, and of course the pop.
Yeah.
It is so cool. I'd make that louder.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. Well,
I would
maybe
It
you were
seems-
just
it seems
not
kinda
hearing it on
dry.
that
It's kind
speaker.
of like it's really there. I know. I was expecting something to pour or to like a consequence of it.
Go listen to it on
I did.
headphones. You did?
Yeah.
Really? And
I
you
have to listen to- I'm just
seriously?
gonna- yeah.
Okay.
Sort of, what do you say?
Maybe crappy headphones.
Because from my point of view, because everything drops out, it was actually too loud, and I was afraid that it's gonna spook people.
Yeah.
Right. No,
no,
I
it's
wasn't
so
allowed too
hooky.
loud. That wasn't what I
Yeah.
just.
Yes, because people listen loud.
Yeah.
If everything drops out and all of a sudden you get assaulted, that's not very nice.
No.
There
Oh,
is a
that's an
balance that you
interesting
have
point,
to follow.
actually, yeah.
So was the pop supposed to be the end of the sentence? I know you're craving
Yes.
and it's building, and soon you'll.
Yeah, exactly.
Pop.
Soon you'll pop.
Soon
Exactly.
you'll pop.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. It just
It
came
is
to
so
me in my
hooky.
head.
It's so hooky.
Yeah.
It's just,
Yeah.
I mean, the chorus. I heard this chorus the first time, and I'm like, "Holy Duran Duran!" Like
Yeah, it's
Duran
true.
Duran to the walls, like in a good way.
okay, that's good.
Early Yaz or
Yeah.
Depeche Mode. Or,
Yes.
or
Yeah.
Yeah, Depeche Mode
or,
is kind of
Tainted
more
Love.
of a
Who's it?
reference.
Soft Cell.
Soft Cell, yeah,
Very
yeah.
soft cell off the top.
This song was super inspired by Jamiroquai.
Okay.
Oh,
Yes,
right.
Yes.
And this song
Vocals
does not
especially.
rhyme at all.
That's true.
There's no rhymes in this song. Was that on purpose?
No, just
Cool.
it fit.
It just worked, eh?
Yeah.
And it does work. It's because it's totally hooky.
Yeah.
And some of the
Catchy.
lines, I forget what it's called, but they're not fitting into the vocal
meter?
lines go over the they break the bar.
Yeah.
Right, right.
The meter is all messed up in this song, but it's okay. It works.
Yeah. There are no rules.
And
Just suggestions.
And the bass, like the music, you wrote entirely on the DAW. You
Yeah.
didn't play
Yeah.
your piano or your guitar.
No, I programmed it all in
It's
with
all
clicks.
programmed.
All mouse
This
clicks.
was a mouse written song.
Yes.
Yeah, well, it works
Interesting.
really well. It's
Yeah.
it's a really hooky a hooky tone. Now the woohoos, was that something that the vocals came out with, or did you guys work on that together?
I think that everything that happened in the studio with the vocalist was my doing. Like, I feel like he told me, nothing's coming to my head. You try. And then I was like, okay, you sing this and this and then that. I was at one point I told him, do this ad lib. No, you think I'm playing? Don't you think I'm playing? No. I didn't keep it in, but he was like, whoa, that's cool. Like,
Yeah.
So like all of it came out of my head.
It's an interesting tempo too, because it's not fast and it's not slow. It's a very sort of
It's down tempo.
It's down tempo.
Yeah, it's down tempo.
95
98?
BPM or something,
95?
96, something like that.
It's
Yeah.
got that little bit of swing to it, which is
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because of the arpeggiator.
because the arpeggiator
Yeah.
you started. Yeah.
Well, it's an interesting tempo because I think a lot of people would sort of like bang this up to 120 or something for a dance thing, or
Yeah.
so it's an interesting choice to pull it down. Did you play around with tempos at all, or?
I feel it was pretty like set in stone when I started.
I think I might have made it a bit faster,
Yeah.
like 2 BPM. I usually boost BPM a little bit by like 1 or 2 to just.
I
make more
remember it being
coherent,
92 BPM and then it ending up at like 95 BPM.
Yeah, 92 is pretty slow.
Yeah.
Yeah, not that there's anything wrong with that.
No.
And
If it
swinging,
fits, it
you can
fits.
handle
It just
Still got
sometimes
energy.
it feels like drunk, you know. You
Yeah.
need it to like tighten up a bit.
And sometimes it feels too tight, so you just a little bit relax it. It's like 1-2 BPM can make a big difference.
Yeah, it's true. It's always a good idea to play around with. That's one of the nice things with working with a DAW. You can actually try 2 BPMs up or down, but it's very hard to do that with a drummer.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can be. It can be.
Yeah,
but of course,
true.
it really depends how the arrangement works. Like if you've got, like you say, an arpeggiated thing that's kind of playing 16th notes on a swing thing, then a slow tempo, like a fast tempo, would hurt that. It'd be you'd end up being frantic.
Exactly.
And whatever, right? So it depends on the.
You need
on
the
musical
you
arrangement.
need that groove. It's got the
Yeah.
groove.
Yeah. It's all
So
about the
how long
groove.
did it take for this music to sort of from beginning to end?
Oh man, so much longer than usual. This
Really?
song took
The
took
writing
like
or the production?
9 months. The writing took 1 day.
Okay.
The production took 9 months. The preliminary production happened within the first 3 months of it existing. And then I kind of shelved it for a bit for whatever reason. And then I came back to it, realized it was underproduced. So that took another month.
Yeah, I think we shelved it because, like, sometimes I can hear something doesn't work, but I don't know what, and I'm like, Alan, this doesn't work, and Alan is like, no, it does work, and I'm like, no, it doesn't work. Let's just do stuff that works for now. And then once we had time, we're like, okay, let's ask other people because I can't articulate. I know something
Yeah.
is wrong. I don't know what. So we asked other people. They gave us suggestions, and it became much better.
So was it about the sound effects or was
It was about production. It was about having too few instruments.
Yeah, filling
Right, so
up
you
the
need- you
sound.
need more layers.
Filling up
Yeah.
the sound. Yeah.
Right.
Like a lot of snares and like
The
little
guitars.
guitars that go
Guitars,
dee-dee-doo,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
the
like the
guitar
funky
in there.
town guitars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I
Okay.
call them.
Was that really about filling it in sort of harmonically, or was it just sort of the sonic landscape?
It was just boring overall. Like, it's about not making it boring to listen to because singer alone is not like enough to carry sometimes a song. You need more stuff around him to make it interesting. So if the song is boring, it doesn't matter how talented you are, it's boring.
Do you guys ever work with reference tracks?
When I mix and master all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this song was inspired by Automaton by Jamiroquai.
Okay.
So like I was listening to that a lot while I was working on this.
But when composing, sometimes we were doing a metal like album for a mod for a video game, right? And we had a reference track for Alan, and Alan composed the song, and honestly, it was pretty bad. Like, it was pretty bad. And then he composed another song, and he listened less to the reference, and I'm like, okay, this is all right. And then the first song, he's just like, no reference. I'm just gonna do it. I'm like, do it. He did it. I'm like, this is great. This is amazing. We need more of
I
that.
think
you,
it
you-
also-
you may not have done that had you not done the bad first one.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
it's true.
about coming into your own. It's like when
Yeah.
you hit a stride, you start composing really good stuff. That's why if you're ever hired to like do jingles or anything like that, don't send in your first draft unless you're really, really confident about it. Like, let the song breathe a while, come back to it and rewrite it potentially, and then send that instead.
Or just write one or two like quick songs, write them off, and just throw them out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good. Way.
It's the same for video games. Never start writing soundtrack for a video game with the most important theme, with the main theme. Don't do it.
Yeah.
Start with something. Start with like a battle theme. Start with anything, but not the main
Learn
theme.
from my mistakes.
Yeah.
You know, the first professional music composition gig I got was for doing music for a bank, the Royal Bank multimedia CD is what they called it back then. And I was, working full time at a print shop, and the guy said, "Oh, you're good at music. You want to do this, CD?" I went, "Okay." And so, he said, "Oh, we'll need 10 pieces of music, finished and produced." I went,
Yeah.
"Okay." He said, "Well, how much will it be?" And I went, "I don't know, I guess it takes a week." So he said, $700. Of course, now looking back on it, because all I did was basically in a week. Like I was just,
How
like
many
12 hours.
how many loaves of bread could you buy for $1 back then?
It wasn't that long ago. But I mean, what the thing was, like, because I was also learning the DAW at the same time, so I was just, just like 12-hour days and trying to do all this stuff, and it was the first time was kind of scary, but you just had to.
Yeah, and you need to
Crank
jump
something.
into the fire, honestly. That's another thing that I've learned in life. It's just like you never gain real practical experience just sitting around and reading about something.
Yeah.
And honestly, even learning about it doesn't teach you anything. What you need to do is be told that there are things within a certain requirement, a certain criteria, and then handle the repercussions of you, like, freaking out,
Yeah, it's true.
Freak out, then get over it, then fix it.
Have a project with a deadline and someone at the end
Yeah.
to go, nah, this
Yeah,
sucks.
a deadline,
right.
man. That is the biggest thing that's missing, I think, from most musicians now. Most musicians don't have a deadline because they've got a computer, they've got a recording studio in in their bedroom.
Right. They're not paying someone else
Yeah.
for their
It's
studio
not like,
time.
okay, well, we've got another 2 hours. What are we going to do?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and there's something about having a deadline. That's the great thing about doing, because your deadlines for the video games, I guess, are fairly hard.
It depends. So there have been a few where the guy just said, just do it. I don't care. Like
6 months from now,
it's-
6 years from now.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
It's because a lot of those video games,
That's hard to
like
get motivated.
right now, we're doing very small projects, right? So a lot of those are being done by a guy who doesn't know when he's gonna finish them. So
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Because I know it's Dave Miner used to work in doing video game music, and it was, for some big studios, and like video game production is really killer. I mean, there's a whole bunch of issues that people just being
Yeah.
totally
Oh,
worked
yeah.
to death almost.
And speaking of deadlines, with the whole digital stuff, there is infinite possibilities that you can experience. So it's very easy to just start, I'm going to redo it, I don't like it, I'm going to redo
Yes.
it. And then you know what happens at the end? You go back to your very first version and you're like, what have I done? This sounds so much better than whatever I was doing.
That has happened to me so many times.
Do you guys ever get to the point where you've written the song along, and then then Ivan, you're working on the production, then you end up going back
Yeah.
and rewriting
All the time.
All
All
the
the
time.
time.
Yeah.
All the
Well, I've trashed so many songs.
It's because like I have more technical vision of the project than Alan does. So sometimes everything is good. I sit down, I start mixing. I'm like, Alan, this doesn't work. Like it just won't work. Like we need to change this. And
From
then,
a holistic perspective,
Yeah.
it sounded good, but for some reason it just won't come together.
yeah, like for example, I don't want like there's not enough stuff I can put sideways. It just clashes with the voice. Something like I'm just bored. Like if I'm mixing and I'm bored by the song, it's not good.
yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, you guys asked me once,
That's always
like,
the litmus test, isn't it?
how do you know, like on the first time I was on the show, how do you know if a song is good? And I'm like, makes me dance. That's the answer that I'll always give you. If it makes you move, it's a good song.
Yeah. Well, that's always the test when you're mixing too. Are you bopping to it? Are you grooving to it?
Yeah, like,
are you really enjoying it? Right?
I'm very
You
kind of
listen to it.
spazzy person. I always sit and I play video games and I have my hands going above my hands. I'm like, ooh. So like if I sit there and I do all of those little spastic dances, I know it's good. But if I sit there and I'm like, I want to take a nap, that's not good.
Yeah. Well, like we said before, like it's good to have the two sets of ears on everything. Right?
Yeah.
Definitely.
Oh, yeah. And like if you can find a collaborator who you get along with and is nearly, yeah, exactly. Do it. Do it as many times as you possibly can. It'll really, really improve your work.
Do it.
Yeah, no,
Good
it's
advice.
important having having partners. I mean, our partnership works well because it's too hard to do everything by
This
yourself.
whole thing, and no one to bounce it off of, right? Like
Yeah.
you guys riff
Exactly.
off
That's
of each
what
other
all
all the
works.
time.
And modern
Yeah.
pop songs, you have like 3 to 6 to 10 to infinite
So-
amount
and
of
just
people.
the songwriters. I mean, they're just written by committee.
Pretty
That's
much.
true.
So what do you guys have coming up? Anything new or different for you guys, or do you have a...
We just released a whole bunch of stuff, so we're sitting right now with nothing. we
Yeah.
released
And
a small
enjoying that?
metal,
Yeah.
we released a small metal EP, we released Imitation Love, we released a remix of Sherry's Jacobi song.
Oh,
We
yeah,
have
that was cool.
another remix coming out soon as we finish the cover and we stop fighting if it's good or bad.
Yeah.
And and then we're all out of steam
Just
for a while.
Go to audioinsurgency.com. Go listen to us on all your favorite streamers, retailers,
YouTube, Spotify,
YouTube, whatever. Just
Audio Insurgency.
give the music a listen. Make sure that it falls onto ears that are listening.
Right.
And
That's
listen
what
to
ears
it
do
on
best.
with a good set of headphones or a good sound system.
Yes.
So that all your work gets appreciated.
Hey man, my job is to make it sound good on bad ones too.
no, yeah.
That's part
That's
of
the
the
real
job.
trick, isn't it?
That's the
Yeah.
trick. Yeah.
But and you guys are open for people if they want you to produce a track for them. You're
Oh,
you're
yeah.
Oh
open for
yeah,
sure.
yeah for sure.
Get in touch.
Yeah.
All right, that's pretty good.
All right.
Yes.
So that is about all the time we have on Song Talk Radio. Special thanks to our guest, Audio Insurgency. Once again, that's audioinsurgency.com. That's
Yep.
your central thing. That's where you can hear more of their music. And please send us your impressions via Twitter at Songtalk Radio, via email, feedback@songtalk.ca, Facebook and YouTube at Songtalk Radio, or stop by the good old website, songtalk.ca. Subscribe today to the Songtalk Radio podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher.com, Spotify, or Podcast Addict. And don't forget to sign up for our free newsletter at songtalk.ca. And you can find links to all the products, books, and web services we mentioned on the show on our resources page on the website. And again, if you're in the Toronto area, please join us. Our next Songwriters Meetup is on Sunday, May the 26th from 1 to 4 p.m. at the Transact Club. It's free to join on meetup.com and free to attend the meetup. Stop by songtalk.ca for the link. Put a face to the voice.
Exactly. You're going to be there, aren't you?
I'm hosting that one, so yeah, I better show up.
And I'm going to bring in a song and we can talk about Circle of the Fifths. Circle of Fifths.
Oh, Circle of Fifths. Oh yeah, that's right. We're going to do a little Circle of Fifths demo.
Yeah.
I just
very
taught that
exciting.
to my students before I came here.
It's well worth knowing.
Yeah.
All right. And thanks to Rita for handling the social media tonight.
Thank you, Rita.
Thank
And,
you.
Thank you to Micah for handling the tech board,
sir.
all the buttons and the sliders and everything. And most of all, we'd like to thank you, the listener, wherever you may be. You can follow me at neilmodi.com. You can follow Phil.
At the Phil Emery on Twitter.
You can follow Michael if he's willing to be followed.
I'm not ready yet. Maybe if I get a new phone that has better picture taking capacity, then I'll go on the Instagram thing. And
On the
on the Instagram.
It's okay. I'll just follow him physically today.
Yeah, I think that's what he's
on
afraid
the
of.
Twitter and on the Instagram and all the stuff on the kids. All the kids.
Can't get more instant than that.
And of course, Audio Insurgency. You guys are at Audio Insurgency everywhere, right?
Yep.
That's AUDIO.
INSURGENCY.
That's right.
Sounds so
USC.
punk, Insurgency.
Yeah, well, we need a new name.
Because
PayPal
PayPal is
block.
censoring us. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, that's a thing.
They think we're a terrorist organization.
What? Has he got Insurgency in you?
Yes.
That's awesome.
But Michael, what happens if they want to follow Michael?
Micah, where can
At
we
Jimmy
find
Micah on Instagram.
What about
He's
Rita?
on the Instagram.
Rita's Instagram is down.
you? Please,
She's already been
we're
banned.
going to do a GoFundMe to get Rita's back up.
Don't forget, stop by the good old website, songtalk.ca, browse past shows, and find out how you can be a guest yourself. Keep on writing.